I heard a fly buzz when I died, by Emily Dickinson. I heard a fly buzz when I died. The stillness in the room was like the stillness in the air between the heaves of storm. The eyes around had wrung them dry, and breaths were gathering firm for the last onset when the king be witnessed in the room. I willed my keepsakes, signed away that portion of me be assignable, and then it was there interposed a fly, with blue, uncertain, stumbling buzz between the light and me, and then the windows failed, and then I could not see to see. Okay, so let's talk about the poem. This is a straightforward poem. The narrator is telling us about the last moments of the narrator's life, right in the throes of death. The poem is written in past tense, so the narrator has already died and is somehow telling us about her or his last moments. First, the narrator notices a fly buzzing. We're also told about how still the air is. The stillness in the air is probably why it's easy for the narrator to notice the fly. The people in the room with the narrator have stopped crying. This moment is too important for crying. I guess the mourners want to calm the narrator, so they stop crying. All of the narrator's things worth willing to anyone has been willed away. Then there's a pesky fly buzzing around. It gets between the narrator and the air, the mourners in the room, and death itself. Then the narrator cannot see to see. Presumably, this is the moment of death. So what is the structure of this poem? Well, it's 4 stanzas, and there are 4 lines in each stanza. Dickinson seems to have gone to great pains to make this poem a perfect iambic meter. Because of that, we get these really nice, perfect rhythms. In each stanza of the 4 lines, we have the first and the third lines are iambic tetrameter. So they have 8 syllables, that's the tetrameter, and the stress is every second syllable, that's the iambic part. Lines 2 and 4 are iambic trimeter, so they have 6 syllables, that's the trimeter, and the stress is again every second syllable, which is the iambic part. But in addition to this, we have these dashes in her poems. These dashes are supposed to be a pause in the reading, a little bit like a comma, but longer pauses than you would get with a comma. It's almost like she wanted this perfect rhythm with the iambic meter, but she wanted to break it up, maybe to give us some of the chaos, the feeling of the chaos that the fly gives us. But whatever her reason, it really does cause us to see this poem very differently than I think we would have without those dashes. We have a couple of themes going on in this poem. One theme is death. Now, death is a big theme in Dickinson's poetry. For this poem, it's about the moment of death. The narrator is describing the moment of death and how she feels in this moment. The narrator tells us it's comfortable with loving family around. However, Dickinson might have thought there needed to be some amount of chaos, so she gives us a fly. Religion is another theme in Dickinson's poems. She was not religious herself, at least not in the traditional Christian sense. She did grow up in a traditional Christian household, and that kind of stays with you into adulthood. The poem indicates that there is life after death, because if there wasn't, could the narrator be telling us of her final moments on earth? Another theme is love, and this, too, is a big theme for Dickinson. In this case, the people encircled the dying narrator obviously love her and want to help her through this time. The word wrung, from the eyes round had wrung them dry, indicates that they, too, have felt pain from the narrator's passing. You can think about the act of wringing dry a washcloth or clothes. To wring dry something, you have to twist it hard. A little like how you might feel in your heart when someone you care for is dying or has died. There are 5 symbols that I can discern from the poem. The obvious one being the fly. The death scene is calm and comfortable. Is the fly there to interrupt the comfort of death? If so, why? Flies are annoying, right? They fly around our faces and heads, and not only annoy us, but get in the way of what we're trying to do, and could cause some chaos, especially when you have kids who can't tell the difference between a buzzing fly and a buzzing bee. The fly interrupts the stillness or quiet in the room at the beginning. This might be a good thing for the narrator. When there is something really heavy or emotional happening, the quiet sometimes makes it hard to keep from falling apart or becoming too emotional. First, the narrator hears the fly but doesn't see it. Dickinson uses onomatopoeia in the first line of the poem. Onomatopoeia is the naming of a thing or action, in this case a fly, by the sound associated with it, so the buzz a fly makes. The fly disappears after the first line of the first stanza and doesn't appear again until the first line of the last stanza. This time, instead of maybe helping the narrator focus on something other than her death, the fly is pesky and takes focus from the actual act of dying. Another symbol is king. Presumably, king is death, and by extension, God. Another symbol is stillness and storm. The moment described in the poem is a very emotional moment. The stillness of the air or the quiet can be stifling. Dickinson compares the still, quiet air to that of the momentary calm of a storm. This can either be like the calm before a storm or the eye of a hurricane where everything is calm and seems fine, but you know something intense is coming. Then we have the eyes. We don't know who is in the room. We only know about their eyes. The eyes tell us a lot. We know there's at least one person in the room, probably many more. We can tell that the people care deeply for the dying narrator. We know this because of the way Dickinson describes how they have stopped crying and are preparing themselves for the inevitable. Lastly, we have window. There's more than one window because Dickinson wrote windows. In literature, windows have been used as a metaphor for eyes. Dickinson is using that metaphor here. The windows are the narrator's eyes, and the narrator cannot see anything anymore.